The gunshot echoed across the desert just as the cabin door burst open. Blood soaked the dirt at her feet, not all of it hers. She stood frozen, pistol shaking in her hand, staring at the man she was never supposed to protect. The frontier wind howled like a warning as hoofbeats faded into the distance. They had come to kill her, just like everyone else before. But now someone else would pay the price. In that moment, she understood the truth. Surviving alone was no longer her greatest danger. Loving was. The frontier woke before she did. The wind rattled the loose boards of the cabin, dragging dust through the cracks like a restless spirit. She lay still on the narrow bed, eyes open, listening. Silence had weighed out here. When it shifted, it meant trouble. She reached for the rifle beside her before her feet touched the floor. The cabin was small, one room, one window, one door that had been repaired too many times to count. Everything inside had a purpose. Nothing was sentimental. She had learned long ago that memories were heavier than supplies. Outside, the sun climbed slowly over the plains, painting the land gold and cruel. She stepped onto the porch, boots crunching against dry earth, eyes scanning the horizon. No smoke, no movement, but something felt wrong. She noticed it near the creek. Footprints, not hers. Her pulse tightened. She crouched, touching the ground lightly, fresh, maybe a day old. Heavy boots, at least to men. Her jaw clenched. She had chosen this place because no one came this far unless they were lost, or looking for something, or someone. She followed the tracks back toward the cabin and checked her supply box. The lid was cracked. Inside, a sack of flour was gone. So was half her dried meat. She exhaled slowly, forcing her hands to stop shaking. You knew this day would come. The frontier had taken everything from her once before. A husband who never came home. A child buried under a nameless stone. A town that decided her grief made her dangerous. She had survived by disappearing. Now she was being found. As the day wore on, she worked the land like nothing had changed, patched a fence, hauled water, cleaned her weapons, but her eyes never stopped moving. Every sound cut sharper. Every shadow felt closer. By dusk, clouds rolled in, heavy and low. Storm weather, bad visibility, worse timing. She barred the door and lit a single lantern. The flame flickered like it was afraid to. Then came the sound, a cough, outside. Her breath caught. She moved silently, rifle raised. Heart pounding so loud she was sure they could hear it. The cough came again, closer this time. Not threatening. Weak. She reached the door, pressed her eye to the crack. A man stood just beyond the porch light, swaying on his feet. Blood darkened his shirt. His horse lay collapsed behind him. And before she could stop herself, before fear could win, she opened the door. That was the first mistake. The man fell forward the moment the door opened. She barely caught him in time, the weight of his body slamming into her chest. Pain flared through her shoulder, but she dragged him inside, kicking the door shut with her heel. The storm broke overhead, thunder cracking so close it rattled the lantern. She laid him on the floor and stepped back, rifle raised, breath ragged. "Don't move," she said, her voice hard. "If you can hear me, don't move." He groaned but didn't reach for a weapon. His hands were empty. One leg was soaked in blood, the fabric torn by a bullet that had passed clean, but deep. That was worse. Clean shots meant experienced shooters. She knelt despite herself, cut away the cloth. The wound was angry and red, but not fatal. Whoever shot him hadn't wanted him dead. Not yet. "Why are you here?" she demanded. His eyes fluttered open, pale, focused, even through pain. "Didn't have a choice," he whispered. She pressed a cloth to the wound, harder than necessary. He hissed but didn't pull away. "No one ever does," she said. As she worked, her mind raced. The stolen supplies, the tracks. This man hadn't been alone. And if he'd been shot, that meant the others were close, very close. She bound his leg tightly, ignoring the ache in her hands. She had sworn she would never do this again. Never patch up a stranger. Never invite danger across her threshold. He grabbed her wrist suddenly. Weak, but urgent. "They're coming," he said. "They followed me." Her stomach dropped. "How many?" "3, maybe 4. He swallowed. "They won't stop." She stood slowly, pulling her wrist free. Outside, the rain hammered down, masking sound, hiding movement. "The perfect cover? You should have kept walking," she said. "You should have died out there." His gaze held hers. "I tried." Something in his voice cracked through her defenses. Not fear, resignation. The sound of a man who had already accepted the end. She turned away, pacing. Every instinct screamed at her to finish this fast. Put him back outside. Bolt the door. Survive. But she knew how this story ended. They would search. They would find blood. And then they would find her. She checked the windows, the back wall, the rifle's chamber. One against many. Bad odds. The man coughed again. "If you help me," he said quietly, "I won't forget it." She laughed once short and bitter. "Out here, forgetting is how you live." Thunder roared overhead. Then, through the rain, came another sound. A shout. "Male. Close." Her hand tightened around the rifle as she realized the truth. Hiding was no longer an option, and saving him might cost her everything she had left. The shouting came again, closer this time. "Captain!" A man's voice called through the rain. "We know someone's in there." She blew out the lantern without thinking, plunging the room into darkness. The only light came from lightning flashing through the window, carving the cabin into sharp, flickering shapes. "Can you walk?" she whispered. The wounded man shook his head slightly. "Not fast." "Then you stay quiet," she said. "No matter what you hear." She moved to the back wall and slid a loose plank aside, revealing a narrow crawl space beneath the cabin. It wasn't meant for comfort. It was meant for survival. Before she could push him toward it, a fist slammed against the front door. "Open up." Another voice barked. "We're not asking twice." Her grip tightened on the rifle. Her heart beat steady, now cold, focused. Fear had burned itself out, leaving only decision. She stepped toward the door instead. "What do you want?" she shouted back. Silence followed. Then laughter, low, confident. "Well, I'll be damned," the voice said. "Didn't think we'd find you still breathing out here." Her blood ran cold. They knew her. "You boys are lost," she said. "Turn around." Boots shifted on the porch. A shadow passed the window. "We ain't here for you," the man replied. "We want what's ours. The man you dragged inside." Her jaw clenched. "You shot him. He stole from us first." Lightning split the sky, illuminating 3 figures outside. Rifles, long coats, faces hard with intent. Not drifters, not desperate men. Hunters. "You leave him," the voice continued, "and we walk away. No blood needs spilling tonight." Behind her, the wounded man stirred. "They're lying," he whispered. "They won't stop." She already knew. Her mind flashed back to another porch, another night, men with the same calm cruelty in their voices, promises that meant nothing. She raised the rifle to her shoulder. "I won't open the door," she said. "You take one more step, and someone dies." For a moment, no one spoke. Rain soaked the silence. Then the leader chuckled. "That fire's still in you. Guess some things don't die easy." A gunshot exploded through the window, with splintered inches from her head. She dove aside as glass shattered, rain and cold air rushing in. Outside, the men spread out, boots thudding against wet ground. The siege had begun, and she realized there would be no walking away from this, not for either of them. The second shot tore through the door, punching a hole clean through the wood where her head had been seconds before. She rolled, came up behind the table, and fired back. The rifle's kick slammed into her shoulder as a scream cut through the storm. One of them went down. "Cover!" someone shouted outside. She didn't wait. She dragged the wounded man toward the crawl space, his weight pulling against her bad leg. He bit down hard, refusing to cry out. "Stay there," she ordered, shoving him into the dark gap beneath the floor. "If they come inside, don't move." She slid the plank back into place just as the door burst inward. 2 men rushed in, rain-soaked and wild-eyed. She fired once, missed. Fired again, wood exploded behind them. They scattered, overturning furniture, searching. "Check the back," one yelled. She grabbed the lantern, hurled it toward the far wall. It shattered, flame licking up the dry boards. Smoke filled the room fast. The men cursed, coughing, retreating toward the door. She slipped out through the back window, boots hitting mud hard. The rain doused the fire as fast as it started, but the distraction bought her seconds. Seconds mattered. She circled wide, using the darkness, moving like the land had taught her to move, low, quiet, lethal. When the third man rounded the corner, she was already there. The shot hit his chest. He fell without a sound. Her breath shook. 2 down, 1 left. The leader. A hand grabbed her from behind. She slammed her elbow back, felt ribs give. They crashed into the mud together, grappling, slipping. His gun went flying. He was stronger, heavier, but slow. "You always were stubborn," he growled, recognizing her now. "Cost your family plenty." Rage exploded through her. She drove her knee into his throat, grabbed the fallen gun, and pressed it under his chin. "Say their names," she hissed. He laughed through blood. Too late. A shot rang out close. Too close. The leader's body went slack beneath her. She spun, gun raised. The wounded man stood in the rain, swaying, pistol smoking in his hand. His face was pale, eyes burning with effort. "You shouldn't have come out," she said. "You needed help." He collapsed to his knees. She caught him before he hit the ground, holding him as the rain washed blood into the dirt. The storm began to fade, leaving only broken bodies and silence. She looked at the man in her arms, alive because of her choice. and understood the truth she had been running from. The past had found her, and she had chosen to face it not alone. But as dawn approached, she knew this was only the beginning. The men had known her name, which meant others would come. Morning came thin and gray. She buried the dead before the sun fully rose. No markers, no prayers, just dirt and silence. The land had taken enough without asking for names. By the time she returned to the cabin, her hands were raw and shaking. She washed them at the basin until the water ran pink, then clear, then empty. The man lay on her bed, breathing shallow but steady. The bullet wound had reopened when he fell. She stitched it again, slower this time, more careful. He watched her, eyes tracking every movement. "You could have left me," he said quietly. She didn't look at him. "I still can, but you won't." Her needle paused. She tied off the thread with more force than necessary. "Don't pretend you know me." He winced, then managed a faint smile. "I know you didn't." Silence stretched between them. Outside, the plains looked unchanged, wide, endless, uncaring. But she felt exposed now, like the land had turned its back. "They knew my name," she said at last. "That means the road leads here." He shifted, careful of the pain. "They were hired. I don't know by who, but they weren't random." "That's worse." "Yes." She stepped away, pacing. Her mind ran through options: pack light, burn the cabin, vanish again. She had done it before. She could do it now. Except this time, there was someone else. "What did you steal?" she asked. "Information," he said. "A ledger, names, routes, deals that shouldn't exist. Men don't bleed like that for paper. They do when it threatens powerful people." She stopped pacing. "You brought war to my door. I brought it running from me." He met her gaze, unflinching. "And you're already in it." A gust of wind rattled the walls, as if the cabin agreed. She looked at the rifle leaning by the door, at the supplies half gone, at the man who had stepped into her life and refused to die. Her chest tightened. This was how it started, how it always started. Care led to loss. "I'll get you to the river town," she said finally. "From there, you're on your own." Relief flickered across his face. "You'll come with me." "No," she said immediately. He didn't argue. He only said, "You can't stay." She knew that too. Outside, she found fresh tracks in the mud, not from the night before. New ones. Her heart sank as she realized time had run out. Running again would no longer save her. They left before noon. She burned the cabin to the ground, watching the flames eat the walls that had kept her alive for years. Smoke climbed into the pale sky, a signal she no longer cared to hide. When the roof collapsed, she turned away without looking back. The man rode behind her, barely holding on, arms wrapped around her waist. Each step of the horse pulled them farther from the life she had built, and closer to something she didn't trust. The tracks followed them by mid-afternoon. She spotted the dust first, riders, more than before. "Hold on," she said. They pushed the horse hard, racing toward the narrow pass that cut through the rocks ahead. If they reached it first, they had a chance. If not, a gunshot cracked past them. Another hit the horse's flank. The animal screamed and stumbled, throwing them hard onto the dirt. She rolled, came up firing. The man crawled behind a boulder, clutching his leg, blood seeping through the bandage again. The riders closed in, 5 of them this time. No escape. She moved without thinking, reloading, firing, using rock and shadow. One fell, then another, but the shots kept coming. A bullet tore through her arm. Pain exploded, white and blinding. She bit down hard, stayed standing. The man shouted her name. She didn't remember telling it to him. She ran to him, dragging him toward cover as bullets chewed the stone behind them. "Go," she said. "Take the horse. I won't leave you." "You will," she snapped, "or we both die." He looked at her, really looked, and something in his face hardened. Not fear, resolve. He picked up the fallen rifle. They fought back to back. When it ended, the land was quiet again, too quiet. She sank to her knees, blood soaking her sleeve. He knelt beside her, hands shaking as he pressed cloth to her wound. "You're hurt," he said. "So are you." They laughed once, breathless and broken. As the sun dipped low, she realized something had changed. Not the danger, not the world. Her. She had stayed. She had fought. She had chosen. At the river town, they would part, or maybe they wouldn't. That question could wait. For now, she leaned into him, letting herself rest against another human being for the first time in years. The frontier had tried to kill her. Instead, it taught her what she was willing to keep.